Mr. Chair, members of the committee, we live in a day where I think every member of this body on either side of the aisle would acknowledge that there's a mental health crisis. This impacts us across the board. It disparately impacts members of our fire community. What this bill, HB 489, does is allows a broadening of the uses for aid to localities as it relates to what local fire and rescue can use those monies for. It includes the options to use those monies for mental health counseling and awareness, as well as recruiting and retention. It comes about as a result of the pretty darn impressive HB 2175 study that the fire programs, as well as VACO, VML, the Northern Virginia Rescue Squad Council, any number of stakeholders put together this last year. And so that would be the second part of the bill. Number one, to broaden the acceptable use.
If I can interrupt,
Yes, sir.
I just want to get the substitute before us. There's a motion to adopt substitute properly seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the substitute is before us. Could you just tell us what's different in the substitute first, Delegate?
So what we want to do is we want to figure out a way to increase fire and rescue funding statewide, frankly. We couldn't do that without cutting funding to large localities to the benefit of small localities. That would be a death knell to this bill. So what we did was create a work group via the fire programs. Unless anyone suggests that there might be a fiscal impact of that, fire programs is here to suggest that the entire 2175 study that they did last year, they did without a budget impact, and they would be willing to work on this. In fact, they asked us to continue this going forward. So this takes out the incremental increase and instead offers the ability to continue to look at ways to increase funding to fire and rescue. And the second thing the bill does is broaden the uses of aid to localities to include recruiting and retention for local fire and rescue, as well as mental health counseling for local fire and rescue. Again, I point out that there is a disparate impact as it relates to the mental health crisis and specifically as it manifests itself in the form of suicide on our fire community. And so if we were allowed to let our localities use some of their ATL money to address that sort of thing, it would probably be to everyone's benefit.
Thank you, Delegate. Any
Thank
questions
you.
for Delegate Garrett from members of the panel? Seeing none, is there anyone here to testify in favor of in the room, testify in favor of the legislation?
Mr. Chair, Spencer Willett, Department of Fire Programs with the State Fire Marshal's Office. So we worked with the delegate on this legislation. We don't anticipate any fiscal impact on the work group itself, and it also does not change the amount that is in aid to localities. It just changes what it can be used for. Right now, when that fund was originally created in the mid to late 80s, it was meant for training of firefighters, and the industry has changed, and so this bill would allow that expansion that we saw in that report from last year with HB 2175.
Good afternoon. Excuse me. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee. My name is Joe Hudgens, and I represent the Independent Insurance Agents of Virginia, and we enthusiastically support this bill. We think there should be every step taken to see that money gets where it needs to be and gets distributed properly to help those localities recover from the things they need to recover from and buy the equipment they need. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, my name is Bonnie Atwood with David Bailey Associates, and I'm speaking for the Virginia Fire Prevention Association, and we support the bill and the amendment.
Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, John Wright on behalf of the Virginia Professional Firefighters. We support the legislation. Thank Delegate Garrett for bringing it forward. We've been constantly fighting this issue of lack of funding with prices dramatically increasing. The cost of a fire engine, the one that brings the hose and the water and the people to put out your house fire or your neighbor's house fire, has gone from $500,000 in 3 years up to over $1.2 million today. Just in that 3-year time frame. A ladder truck that's got the big ladder on top, it's gone from $1 million to over $3 million. Fire stations, staffing, recruitment, and retention challenges. It's all adding up, costs money. This gives some flexibility, more flexibilities to localities to use their funds to meet their needs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone here to testify against the bill? Thank you, Delegate Garrett. This is the time of session when things get a little wiggy, so I think Delegate Shin has a question for you.
I do have a question. Delegate Garrett, I very much appreciate this bill and I'm supportive of it. I wondered if you would consider it a friendly amendment in order for us to keep this moving forward, to strike lines 98 through 106 in order to remove the work group and request that the chair send a letter, but it would preserve lines 59 through 60, which is the part where we include providing mental health resources as a part of how the funds could be used. And again, I would reiterate that that is my intent to keep this bill moving in the right direction.
Mr. Chair, Delegate Shin, I gratefully accept that as a helpful amendment and hope to also keep this bill moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Council, did you get that?
Mr. Chair, Delegate Gary, yes, sir. Strike the second enactment clause.
Move the amendment.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The amendments are before us. We have a motion to report the substitute as amended. Let's open up the board. Oh, I'm sorry.
Substitute as amended, it's into appropriations.
No,
We wouldn't have a fiscal.
No fist now.
no, but I think the request was to have a letter from the chair, right?
Yes, the motion was with a letter.
Right. Okay. So Delegate Kilgore, we won't make you restate that, but we think we know what you meant. All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, now let's go on the board.
Does this go into appropriations? Is that what we intended? Oh, go into appropriations? I thought we just said that we were requesting a letter from the chair. I thought it had no fist. I thought it had no fist. It's going to appropriations?
Mr. Clerk, I notice on the board it says appropriations. Is that right? Do we have a letter directing it to appropriations?
No, to this fire safety board.
We do. So let's, Delegate Kilgore, do you want to withdraw your motion?
I'm curious. I'm curious whether the letter that directed a referral to appropriations is up to date with the amendment that was offered, the committee, the amendment in nature of a substitute.
The answer is I don't know. but-
Right.
Chairman, and I'd make a motion. I motion to report as amended with request that the letter send a chair, the chair send a letter relative to the report.
Well,
Point of order. Delegate Kilgore.
I think I agree with the patron that a letter from the appropriations probably came when there was some fiscal impact to the bill, but we do not mean you any harm, and but we do need to go ahead and send that up there just in practice, because that's what we do as this committee, and then it should just roll right out there. But
Inshallah.
Should.
No, I appreciate it. I know that there was a fiscal impact before the amendment in nature of a substitute. I don't think there is now, but I'm happy to move it forward.
Here's what we're going to do. We got to remember we're still in subcommittee. There's a Thursday for this bill. So I have seen the speaker's letter. This letter is supposed to go to appropriations. If that were to change between now and Thursday, we can work that out. So I'll entertain a new motion.
I withdraw my motion.
I would make a motion that we recommend reporting the substitute with amendments and referring to appropriations.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. Clerk, please open the roll. Close the roll. Delegate Garrett, we'll see you Thursday, 7-0. I would urge you to come back.
Thank you. Appreciate
you'll
it,
be in
Mr.
Southern.
Chair. Thank you all.